All of us at this point have seen those weird Fuji disposable cameras with the plastic shells on the outside lining the shelves at our local supermarket. It being summertime and time for a little vacation, I bought 2 of them and headed to the land of palm trees and Ron DeSantis, apparently, to test them out. I've always wanted to go to a place called Weeki Wachee State Park. I swear to God that's what it's called. It's a state park in Florida known for a couple things: mermaids and freaking manatees. So I decided I wasn't leaving that park without getting in the water with a mermaid or a manatee. When we all got to the park, I opened up the cameras, one for myself and one for the much more capable hands of my daughter.
Daddy, guess what? I get to ride in yours.
Yes, whatever.
We picked up our kayaks and shoved off, keeping a keen eye out for alligators.
Bella,
What?
love you.
Love you too.
These Fuji underwater cameras are pretty simple. They're a lot like a regular disposable camera, except instead of coming with 400 or 200 ISO speed film, these come with 800 speed film, and they're notable because they have that hard plastic shell around the outside and these big, chunky, obnoxious controls so you can operate them underwater. And as we continue on our little adventure, I'm gonna show you some of the photos along the way. We paddled down the river in our kayaks, seeing all manner of wildlife: turtles, fish, birds, all sorts of things. But no manatee. Eventually, we found a clearing in the water, a spot where it was nice and clear, and we decided to take a swim. And that's where I tried my hand at my first photos, trying to get a good self-portrait underwater. And that's where we're gonna run into the first issue with the camera. So let's take a look at these.
You ready to take some pics?
Yeah, come on.
Are we gonna go swim in that water, Bella?
Yeah, we can go swim. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Let's go swim.
Okay.
Taking a look at the photos I took here, number one, it appears that I'm slightly out of focus. We'll forgive the camera for that. We know it's a disposable camera. They have plastic lenses. They're not known for the highest image quality. But my problem with the camera is a little more fundamental, and that's the focal length. You can see that it is very, very close. Now, obviously, I'm holding the camera at roughly arm's length away from my face, but it appears to be a pretty long focal length. This means that when a camera like this is taken underwater, the effective focal length is a little longer. So you're gonna pull the camera out of the water and things are gonna appear just a little wider, and you're gonna put it under the water and things are gonna be a little tighter, resulting in the constrained focal length and a little bit too close crop for taking self-portraits like I attempted here. So that's something worth noting, not just for these cheap disposable cameras, but for cameras in general. If you want to get serious about underwater photography, there's something called a dome port that you would want to use. That's a rounded viewing port that can help compensate for some of that focal length gain that you get underwater. Here's a photo of my dad and my daughter, and you can see you've got some very typical Fuji colors here. Maybe they're just a little warmer than normal, but they are still very blue. Here's a picture of my feet trying to walk on some slimy log underwater. And then here's a picture of my son walking into the edge of the water. And you can see when the camera's outside of the water, the images look pretty nice. The colors are nice and very realistic, and the lighting is good enough. On the day that we were out shooting, it was a partly cloudy day, so some of the images are gonna be from under modeled clouds, and then some of the images are gonna be bright sunlight. So that was just the lighting conditions that we had to deal with on that day. This shot right here looks to be a real attempt at just an underwater photo. I think I was wanting to see how much resolution I could get trying to take a picture of the bottom with the camera. And as you can see, there are a couple things kind of decreasing the image quality here. The first being, it's a little dark. You can see there isn't a ton of light there. The camera says right on the box, shoot an abundant light. I probably didn't have enough light to really pull this shot off, but it's also the lower resolution of the plastic lenses involved in the camera and the additional layer of the plastic case, and the murkiness of the water. Not a super high resolution shot. Here's an image of me doing my best underwater impression of a chipmunk. Here's a photo of my mom expertly piloting her kayak down the river. And here's an underwater photo of me taking a picture of some bubbles. Here's another shot looking down the river, and you can see kind of the lighting conditions here. Very cloudy, at least in this photo. And that cloud cover didn't help with the fixed aperture camera. Disposable cameras like this, they have a fixed aperture, and it's a very tiny aperture. And that's to keep the camera simple. Not a lot happening inside the camera. There isn't much going on. Keeps it simple, keeps the camera cheap, easy to manufacture, and keeps everything in focus. If you're shooting at a high enough f-stop, then everything's gonna appear in focus. And that's the way these cameras work. So they don't have to have autofocus mechanisms. They don't have to have aperture mechanisms. They just use a really tiny aperture that simplifies their operation a lot. But there are some drawbacks. Being with a tiny aperture, not a lot of light can get into the camera. And you see the drawbacks of that in some of these images. Again, like I said, with the cloud cover, this image appears pretty dark. Here's a photo of my daughter standing in the edge of the water. Again, looks like we had a little better lighting here, and everything looks nice. So what conclusions can we draw from these photos that we've taken with these two Fuji disposable underwater cameras? Well, first and foremost, these cameras need a lot of light to be able to deliver really nice images. You could see that when the lighting was okay, the cameras actually produced pretty good images. The colors were nice, the saturation was good, and even the resolution was good. But as the light started to fall off, the cameras just fell to pieces. So that's something to be aware of. If you're shooting these cameras, you're gonna need a ton of light. Maybe don't even consider bringing them if it's even gonna be a partly cloudy day. But the cameras are really nice, and darn it, the price is right on them as well. They're 15 or 16 bucks, really cheap cameras. And let's talk a little bit about the value proposition of these cameras. They're like $16 or $17. They're a little more than a regular disposable camera. That's due to that plastic case that you get on the outside. But it is the cheapest way to get into underwater photography without spending an arm and a leg. It doesn't take very long doing a little research on the internet, finding a case for your nice digital camera. You can spend $200, $300 on the low end, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 on the high end. So for somebody who just wants to take a casual approach, just get a couple snapshots underwater, this is one of your best ways to get underwater photos. So while these may not be the highest quality photos that you've ever seen in your life, these cameras definitely have something to offer if you just want to grab a couple of shots underwater, mess around. Super cool cameras, even if the image quality isn't all that great. And if you like cameras that don't have great image quality, why else would you be at a photography channel? Check out this video of me shooting a 110 film camera that I bought from McDonald's and shooting the 30-year-old film that came with it. But as always, guys, thanks so much for watching.